Listen, the quality of your life, the quality of your decisions. Not tomorrow, not next year, today. Most people live stuck because they're addicted to comfort, and comfort is the enemy of growth. You want change. Then you've got to raise your standards. You've got to decide, really decide, that your old story is over. Energy is everything. If you change your state, you change your story. And when you change your story, you change your life. Fear is just imagination we rehearse in advance. The antidote is action. Progress is happiness, and if you're not growing, you're dying. Don't wait for the perfect conditions. They don't exist. The power is in now. Shift your focus, create a compelling vision, and don't just set goals. Create rituals that make those goals inevitable. And remember, it's not about resources, it's about resourcefulness. You already have what it takes. The only question is, are you hungry enough to unleash it? Raise your standards, and life will rise to meet them. Every breakthrough in life begins the moment you stop settling. Most people don't get what they want because they're willing to accept less than they're capable of. They don't fail because they lack ability. They fail because they tolerate a life that doesn't match who they could be. The difference between the people who achieve extraordinary results and those who stay stuck isn't talent. It's standards. If your standard is, I'll do what's convenient, then you'll live a convenient life. But if your standard is, I'll do whatever it takes, then you'll create a life that most people will only dream about. Standards are like an internal thermostat. Whatever you set it to, life will pull you back to that level. You can have temporary success, but if your identity says, I'm average, I'm ordinary, I don't deserve more, you'll sabotage it until it matches your standard again. Raise that thermostat, and everything begins to change. The truth is, life doesn't give you what you want, it gives you what you demand of yourself. Wanting is cheap. Everyone wants more money, better health, a deeper relationship. But few demand it of themselves consistently. When you raise your standard, you eliminate excuses. You don't hope to get fit, you must get fit. You don't wish for financial freedom, you demand it by refusing to settle for a paycheck to paycheck life. That shift from to must is the birth of transformation. When something becomes a must, your brain finds a way. If you look at the most successful people, they all made a decision at some point, I will no longer live at this level. This is not who I am. I am meant for more. That decision isn't just intellectual, it's emotional. Change happens when the pain of staying the same becomes greater than the pain of changing. The moment you stop negotiating with your old self, everything opens up. Too many people argue for their limitations. They say, this is just how I am, this is how I was raised, this is my story. But you're not your story, you're the author of it. Standards rewrite stories. If your standard is that you will not go to bed without giving your best that day, then your life will reflect that commitment. If your standard is that you will not tolerate relationships that diminish you, then you will attract and keep relationships that elevate you. Standards are invisible boundaries that shape everything. People who succeed aren't lucky. They simply refuse to live below a certain level. Now here's the secret. Raising your standard is not just about saying it, it's about conditioning it. Anyone can declare, I'm going to change my life. But unless you condition that belief with action, it fades. You have to back it up with consistent choices that reinforce your new identity. If you raise your standard financially but keep spending impulsively, the identity doesn't lock in. If you raise your standard in health but skip workouts whenever you feel tired, the standard doesn't stick. Every action is a vote for the identity you're stepping into. So how do you lock in a higher standard? You align it with your state and your story. This brings us to the second key: state controls story, and story controls life. Think about it when you're in a peak state, full of energy, alive, grateful. What kind of stories do you tell yourself? You tell stories of possibility, of courage, of opportunity. You start believing you can do things that seemed impossible an hour ago. But when you're in a lousy state, tired, angry, fearful, suddenly the story changes. Now the story is about how you're not enough, how it's too hard, how nothing ever works out for you. The same person, the same life, but a completely different story depending on the state you're in. If you want to change your life, you have to master your state. That's why motion creates emotion. That's why physiology is power. You can shift your entire psychology in seconds by changing the way you move, the way you focus. If you're hunched over, breathing shallow, moving slow, your brain will access stories of weakness. But if you stand tall, breathe deep, move with intensity, your brain will access stories of strength. It's not magic, it's the way the nervous system is wired. The mistake most people make is trying to change the story without changing the state. They try to think their way into a better life, but they're doing it while slouched on the couch, drained of energy. That never works. You have to shift your state first, change your energy, and suddenly new stories become available. And once you change the story, you change your life. Because your story is the filter through which you interpret reality. Your story determines what you believe is possible, what you're willing to go after, and what you think you deserve. Everyone has a story about who they are and what's possible for them. I'm the type of person who always struggles with money. I'm the type of person who always gets hurt in relationships. I'm the type of person who's not good at business. These stories keep people trapped. They may not even realize they're telling them, but the story is running in the background, shaping every decision. The way out is to consciously write a new story that matches the higher standard you've set. If your standard is that you will not live in scarcity, then your story must be, I am resourceful, I always find a way, I attract opportunities. If your standard is that you will not settle for average health, then your story must be, I am disciplined, I value my body, I am committed to vitality. When your state and your story line up, momentum builds. The moment you link a new standard to an empowering state and then wrap it in a story that affirms your identity, you create unstoppable force. People look at those who succeed and say, they're just confident, they're lucky, they're gifted. No, they simply live in a different state and they've chosen a different story. Confidence is a habit built by putting yourself in powerful states again and again until the story of confidence becomes who you are. That's why rituals are so important. Morning routines, physical movement, gratitude practices, they're not just habits, they're ways of conditioning your state so your story stays strong. Because life will test you. Circumstances will challenge you. If you don't actively prime your state, the world will pull you into a disempowered one, and then your old story will creep back in. The difference between a leader and someone who follows is that leaders don't wait to feel good. They generate the state that drives them. So raising your standards isn't separate from mastering your state and story. They're linked. You raise your standard, you align your state, you choose a new story. And once those three line up, transformation isn't just possible, it's inevitable. Fear is imagination, break it with action. Most people don't realize fear is not real. Fear is your mind projecting a painful future that hasn't even happened yet. It's your brain rehearsing disaster. Fear is imagination abused. What's fascinating is that the most successful people on earth feel fear too. The difference is they don't let fear paralyze them. They've trained themselves to use fear as fuel. Every time you take action in the face of fear, the fear shrinks. Every time you let fear stop you, it grows. Fear feeds on inaction. Courage feeds on momentum. Think about it. When you're about to step into something big, whether it's starting a business, asking someone out, speaking in front of an audience, your brain starts throwing what if scenarios at you. What if I fail? What if I embarrass myself? What if I lose everything? That's your nervous system trying to protect you. But protection isn't growth. If you listen to that voice, you'll stay stuck in the prison of the familiar. Fear always whispers that safety is better than possibility. But safety is the most dangerous place to live because safety leads to stagnation. And stagnation kills your spirit. The secret is action. The only way to kill fear is to act in spite of it. Action is the antidote. You don't need confidence before you act. Confidence is the reward of action, not the prerequisite. Waiting until you feel fearless is like waiting until you're in shape to go to the gym. It never comes. You build the muscle by showing up again and again in the face of discomfort. Fear loses its grip the moment you prove to yourself that you're bigger than it. Your brain is wired for survival, not success. It will always overestimate the threat and underestimate your ability. That's biology. But you don't have to live as a prisoner of biology. You can condition courage by taking small steps into uncertainty every single day. The more uncertainty you embrace, the more you expand. What was terrifying yesterday becomes normal today. What once looked impossible becomes inevitable. Fear is a compass pointing toward where you need to grow. If something scares you, that's the direction you need to move because fear highlights where your next level lies. The people who change the world are not the ones without fear. They're the ones who don't obey it. They've learned that everything they want is on the other side of fear. They step into it, not away from it. And here's the truth. When you break through fear once, you don't just gain the result, you gain a new identity. You become someone who does hard things. You create evidence for yourself that you are capable. That's how breakthroughs stack. That's how ordinary people become extraordinary. One fearless action at a time. Fear will always be there, but courage is a muscle. And the more you use it, the stronger it gets. Stop waiting for the fear to go away. Train yourself to dance with it because fear is imagination, but so is vision. And vision is stronger when you give it more attention. The question is, which imagination are you feeding? The one that builds a future worth living or the one that convinces you to hide? Progress equals happiness. At the end of the day, success isn't about how much money you make or how many things you collect. Success is about growing, becoming more, expanding what's possible for you and for the people you love. Human beings are happiest when we feel like we're making progress. It's hardwired into us. You can achieve everything you once dreamed of, but if you stop growing, you'll feel empty. That's why you see people who reach the pinnacle, celebrities, athletes, business leaders. who have it all, yet they're miserable. They're not progressing anymore. They've hit a plateau and lost that sense of aliveness. Progress is what creates fulfillment. Think about it. When you start learning a new skill, you feel excited because you're growing. When you push yourself to a new level physically, you feel proud because you're evolving. When you work on your relationships and deepen them, you feel alive because love is expanding. Fulfillment doesn't come from arriving, it comes from becoming. If you're not growing, you're dying because life itself is growth. The plants grow, the universe expands, your body renews cells every second. Stagnation goes against nature. Most people think happiness is something that comes after achievement. Once I hit that financial goal, then I'll feel good. Once I lose the weight, then I'll feel good. Once I find the right partner, then I'll feel good. That's a lie the mind tells. Because the moment you hit the goal, the feeling fades if you're not already living in progress. It's not the achievement that matters. It's the growth you experience along the way. That's why people who focus only on goals end up disappointed, while people who focus on growth stay fulfilled for life. When you measure success only by outcomes, you set yourself up to suffer because outcomes are temporary. But when you measure success by progress, you always win. Even if you don't reach the final goal, if you've grown, if you've stretched, if you become more, you feel alive. And that aliveness is what makes life worth living. Progress doesn't have to be massive. It can be one small step forward, one new habit, one new insight, one new action you didn't take yesterday. The compound effect of daily progress creates unstoppable momentum. People overestimate what they can do in a year, but they underestimate what they can do in a decade. Imagine what your life looks like if you commit to small, consistent progress every single day. Over time, the transformation is unbelievable. The secret to happiness is not comfort, it's growth. Comfort feels good for a moment, but it turns into boredom. Growth may feel uncomfortable in the moment, but it turns into lasting fulfillment. Every time you push yourself into a new level of growth, you feel proud, alive, free. That's why you have to chase progress, not perfection. Perfection doesn't exist, but progress is always available. Progress gives you energy. Progress gives you confidence, creates momentum. It fuels your identity and reshapes your future. The more progress you make, the hungrier you become, and hunger is the ultimate driver of transformation. The question isn't, how do I get rid of fear? Or how do I arrive? The question is, how do I keep growing today? Because when you're growing, fear becomes smaller and happiness becomes inevitable. Comfort kills growth. Human beings are not designed to stay in comfort zones. Comfort feels safe, but it robs you of your potential. Every time you choose comfort, you trade your future for the illusion of security. Growth only comes when you step into uncertainty, when you stretch yourself, when you do the thing that scares you or challenges you. The muscles of your body grow because you put them under stress. The same principle applies to your mind, your business, your relationships. Growth requires stress, requires challenge, requires the courage to step into discomfort. The people who create extraordinary lives are the ones who get addicted to growth, not comfort. They've trained themselves to love the process of stretching. You cannot discover who you really are while living only in ease. Every great transformation in history came because someone chose to break free from comfort and take a bold step into the unknown. Comfort is seductive because it tells you you're safe, but what it hides is that comfort slowly erodes your hunger. And hunger is the fuel of achievement. If you want to feel fully alive, you have to trade comfort for challenge because challenge brings growth and growth brings fulfillment. Focus creates meaning. Where focus goes, energy flows. Most people don't realize the power of focus. Whatever you put your attention on grows stronger in your mind and in your life. If you focus on problems, you magnify them. If you focus on possibilities, you expand them. Focus is like a magnifying glass. It intensifies whatever you direct it toward. That's why two people can live through the same circumstances, but one feels defeated while the other feels empowered. It's not the circumstances that decide the outcome, it's where they focus. Your mind is always scanning for meaning, and meaning is created by focus. If you focus on what you can't control, you feel helpless. If you focus on what you can control, you feel powerful. Energy flows in the direction of your dominant thoughts, and your life begins to reflect the focus you choose. That's why gratitude is so transformative. It shifts your focus from what's missing to what's already present, from scarcity to abundance, from fear to strength. If you discipline your focus, you discipline your destiny. Success is built on rituals, not just goals. Everyone sets goals, but very few achieve them because goals without rituals are just wishes. Your rituals, what you do every single day, are what shape your destiny. It's not what you do once in a while that matters. It's what you do consistently. You don't need to think about brushing your teeth. It's a ritual and it shapes your health in small ways every day. Imagine if you built rituals around your body, your mind, your emotions, your business. What could that consistency create over time? Goals are powerful because they give you direction, but rituals are what carry you there. If your goal is to get fit, but your ritual is skipping workouts, the goal dies. If your goal is to build wealth, but your ritual is spending recklessly, the goal fades. The people who achieve mastery are the ones who install rituals that make success inevitable. Rituals create momentum because they shift identity. When you act consistently, you stop just wanting and start becoming. You want to change your life. Don't just set bigger goals. Set better rituals. It's never about resources. It's about resourcefulness. People love to tell themselves they don't have enough money, enough time, enough connections. But the truth is, resources are never the real problem. History is full of people who started with nothing, no money, no support, no formal education. Yet they created extraordinary lives. What they had was resourcefulness. Resourcefulness means creativity, determination, resilience, flexibility. If you're resourceful enough, you can find the money, you can create the time, you can build the connections. Resources without resourcefulness are useless. But resourcefulness without resources still finds a way to win. When you stop focusing on what's missing and start asking, what's possible? What can I do right now with what I have? You ignite a part of yourself that is unstoppable. Resourcefulness is born in moments of pressure, in times when comfort is stripped away, when you have no choice but to find another way. That's when you discover the strength you didn't know you had. And once you realize you are infinitely resourceful, you stop waiting for perfect conditions and start creating them. The power of change lives in now. Most people live their entire lives waiting for the right time, the perfect moment, the someday when everything will line up. But someday is not a day of the week. Someday never comes. The only time you have power is now. The past is gone, you can't change it, and the future hasn't happened yet. All that exists is this moment, and the decisions you make in this moment shape the trajectory of your life. Waiting is the enemy of change because waiting teaches your brain that it's okay to delay your dreams. Every day you wait, the habit of waiting grows stronger. The people who transform their lives are the ones who decide right now that they've had enough, that the old story is over, that they're not willing to wait another second to step into who they're meant to be. Change doesn't require time, it requires a decision. You don't need to take 10 years to shift your identity. You can decide in an instant. The moment you say, no more, this ends now, I'm creating a new standard for myself, everything changes. Time is not the barrier, decision is. That's why urgency is power. When you live as if now is the only chance you'll get, you stop procrastinating and start living. And the more you act in the now, the more momentum you build. Hunger is the ultimate driver of transformation. Talent, intelligence, and opportunity mean nothing without hunger. Hunger is the invisible force that makes people do what others won't. Hunger is what makes someone wake up earlier, stay later, push through pain, and refuse to quit when it gets hard. Hunger is what keeps you alive when comfort tempts you to settle. Hunger is not just desire, it's obsession. It's fire in your belly that says, I will not stop until I create this. The difference between people who achieve a little and those who achieve massively is hunger. If you're hungry enough, you'll figure it out. If you're hungry enough, you'll turn fear into fuel, rejection into redirection, setbacks into strategies. Hunger is more powerful than resources because hunger creates resourcefulness. Hunger pulls out creativity you didn't know you had, resilience you didn't know existed, energy you didn't know was inside you. The people who make history are the ones who are insatiably hungry for more. Not more things, but more growth, more contribution, more impact. Hunger is the edge. When you're hungry, you don't need external motivation because the fire comes from within. And hunger grows when you feed it. The more you stretch, the more you taste possibility, the hungrier you become. That's why the most successful people are often the hungriest. They're not satisfied with what they've done. They're compelled to see what else they can create, who else they can become, how much more they can give. Hunger is the spark that turns potential into reality, and the deeper your hunger, the greater your destiny. You've heard it all: standard, state, story, action, progress, hunger. The truth is, none of it matters until you decide. Life changes in a moment, not in a decade. It changes the second you draw a line in the sand and say, this is who I am now. This is the life I will live. Most people overcomplicate success. They think it's about luck, resources, or circumstances. But life is not about what you get, it's about what you create, and creation begins with a choice. A choice to raise your standards, to demand more from yourself than anyone else could ever demand of you. You cannot keep living by the old story and expect a new life. The story of your limitations, the story of your past, the story of why it hasn't worked. Burn it, write a new story. A story of resilience, of courage, of passion, of unstoppable hunger. And you can't wait for it to write itself. You have to act now, not tomorrow, not next week. Now, because the clock is ticking on your life, and every moment you hesitate is a moment you don't get back. Fear will always show up, whispering in your ear that you're not ready, that you don't have enough, that you'll fail. But fear is just imagination. It's a movie you're playing in your mind. The way out is simple. Take action. Action dissolves fear, builds confidence, and creates momentum. With each step forward, you prove to yourself that you are stronger than the story, bigger than the fear, greater than the obstacles in your path. And progress, that's the real prize. You don't have to leap a mile in a single day. Just take one step forward, then another. Celebrate the growth, however small, because progress compounds. Progress is what makes you feel alive. Progress is what fuels happiness. Without growth, even success will feel empty. With growth, even setbacks become meaningful. But growth never happens in comfort. Comfort is seductive, but it keeps you small. Challenge yourself. Push into discomfort. That's where the muscle builds, where resilience is forged, where identity shifts. And while you do it, direct your focus. Focus is your superpower. Focus on what you can control in gratitude, focus on possibility, and watch how your energy expands. Don't just set goals, create rituals. Goals give you direction, but rituals shape your destiny. Install habits that embody who you want to become, not just what you want to achieve. Every ritual is a vote for your future self. Stack those votes and transformation becomes inevitable. And never forget, it's not about the resources you have, it's about the resourcefulness you bring. Resourcefulness is the ultimate strength. It will find the door when resources say it's locked. It will build a ladder when others see a wall. The power to change is already in your hands in this moment. And the fuel to drive that change is hunger. Hunger will make you relentless. Hunger will pull out of you more than you ever thought possible. Hunger will keep you chasing growth when comfort calls you back to mediocrity. The hungrier you are, the more alive you become. So ask yourself right now, what standard will you raise? What story will you rewrite? What fear will you act on? What progress will you commit to? Because the power is not in someday, it's in today, it's in this breath, it's in now. And the moment you decide, your entire destiny begins to shift.